experiment was begun by a scientist who discovered, quite by accident, these signals being sent. Please understand, they are safe as long as they are not discovered.
A kill list was intercepted. It says everyone in this room will be dead. You're number 2 on the list. Well, who's number 1? An unknown, a civilian.
Lookoutfa Charlie.
I want him down.
In my last 2 videos, I explained how sound weapons used 24/7 on a subject can create the modern Manchurian. And I also explained how these same sound weapons used in the woods can drive a human being to a predetermined location like a chess piece, without them having any idea it was happening to them. And now I'm going to drive the thin edge of the wedge even deeper. And I want to talk to you about OP Rock and the soldiers that were experimented on there with military technology, weapons of war. And I pray that the soldiers who experience this technology, or any soldiers who have experienced this technology, see this and see the rest of my videos. I'm going to break it down piece by piece so that you or anyone who has experienced anything like this can put it behind you and get on with your life. This is all just brand confusion. This happens to civilians, and civilians think this is paranormal, or they think they're being targeted by whoever. Or it happens to psychics, and psychics think they're psychic because they're hearing voices. They're guided by voices. This happens to people in the military, and they think it's ghosts of war. Especially in a war situation or a combat situation, your minds can get bent. It can cause PTSD. Your belief systems get bent. It may even follow you home. But I promise you that the only thing that followed you home was more experiments and testing. And if you do the research for yourself, you'll find the same thing. Regardless of what you think you saw, heard, or felt, it can be very, very convincing. If you are a soldier who has experienced this, listen to me. I'm the best fucking friend you have in this situation. What you've experienced in the past or anything after that will not have the same effect on you ever again. Quote-unquote haunted houses. And I know how real it can feel to the subject experiencing these situations. It can have an effect on your entire life. But what can have a better effect on your entire life is figuring out that it wasn't really a haunting in the first place. That it was all artificial, and it was a series of magic tricks designed to fool the senses, test the character of the person, or to create a cloud of confusion that allows these ops and tests to continue without anyone being any wiser to it. It continues and continues through brand confusion. They will present anything like this as paranormal. They always have and they always will. But if you present it in another way, like how I am presenting it, it suddenly gets banned or shadow banned, or it's hard to find the information. That is quite strange, huh? Put your mind back to work. What makes more sense to you? The Russian ghosts decided to slowly mess with you one by one, then saved the finale of creating sounds of a firefight for your last night there? Or an agency somewhere out there knew your itinerary and decided to test very known weapons of war on you? They are being tested on citizens in the United States every day. Of course they're going to test this on you in a combat situation. These soldiers need to be aware of this, and I'm trying to help them. Because some of them take this home with them, and it still quote-unquote haunts them afterward. They need to understand what it really is and what is really happening to them. And someone may ask why. Why OP Rock? And that's because they were a small unit, out in the middle of nowhere, very few witnesses, and they could try it on these people and leave them bewildered and confused from it. Thinking that there are ghosts following you around can really leave some scars on you mentally, and you need to be aware of what it really is. This wasn't your friends or basic higher-ups in on this. This is a small psychological operations unit, and trust me when I tell you this, there was no one near you doing this. It is done from extremely long distances. So what we're going to do is we're going to listen to the edited down story of OP Rock as the soldiers tell it, and I'm going to stop along the way and explain it to you, piece by piece by piece. But what you need to listen to first is the fact that these weapons exist. Audio weapons exist. Hologram technology exists. All this different technology exists, and it is put together as one weapon. And it's a weapon of war, period. That's what it's for. Ultrasound and infrasound makes animals act weird. Audio weapons are everywhere. The sense of touch can be artificially created, modulating air to create the sense of breath on you. High EMF creates sensations like being watched or fear and terror. Infrared and other blue beam style weapons to create visual illusions, which are still way easier at night. And that's when they were always attacked, at night. It's not that they can't be done in the day, they're just easier at night. There have been many, many versions of these weapons over the years. Here is a TED Talk from Woody Norris, and in this he explains one of these weapons that are used. It's an audio weapon, and it is used to create sound right next to your ears that you cannot tell is being created next to your ears. The illusion of distance. It's a magic trick. The illusion of distance. Check it out.
It's actually emitting ultrasound, low-level ultrasound that's about 100,000 vibrations per second. And the sound that you're hearing, unlike a regular speaker on which all the sound is made on the face, is made out in front of it in the air. An effect happens in the air. It's a corrupting effect of the sound, the ultrasound in this case, that's emitted. But it's so predictable that you can produce very precise audio out of that effect. Now, the question is, where is the sound made? Instead of being made on the face of the cone, it's made at literally billions of little independent points along this narrow column in the air. And so when I aim it towards you, what you hear is made right next to your ears. I can put it so that one ear hears one speaker, the other ear hears the other. So again, this idea of being able to put sound anywhere you want to is really starting to catch on. We've got the military had just deployed some of these into Iraq where you can put fake troop movements a quarter of a mile away on a hillside. Or you can whisper in the ear of a supposed terrorist some biblical verse.
Now listen to what he said. The military already bought these weapons and deployed them into Iraq, Afghanistan, and you can put fake troop movements a quarter of a mile away on a hillside. Or you could whisper in the ear of a terrorist. Whisper in the ear of a terrorist. Now listen to what I'm telling you. And this is just one consumer grade weapon that is out there. Now, when a hologram is used on somebody, an infrared hologram or anything else is used on somebody in the height of fear, they are never going to be scrutinizing it to tell whether it is real or not. It is just going to scare them. That is never going to be on the table because of the fear factor involved. You are just going to freak out, especially when there are sounds to go with it. So let's check out this crappy, consumer-grade, non-military hologram. If you saw this in the night, you would not guess whether it was real or not. And this is just a crappy, consumer-grade hologram that they're showing to the public. So if you didn't know any better, you are not going to scrutinize this to tell whether it is real or not. It is just going to appear real. And like I said, this is done at long distances. This could have been done from the United States. It could have been done from Tel Aviv. It could have been done from practically anywhere. But somebody knew their itinerary, knew what they were doing, and knew exactly who they were pulling this on. So let me tell you exactly what happened here. These soldiers went to guard an outpost. And when they got there, there were English soldiers that were already there, that were acting disheveled and weird. And they came to relieve them, small unit, and what happens after that appears to be a full-on haunting. But it isn't. These soldiers were attacked with audio weapons and with holographic weapons. It's very obvious if you know what's going on. So let's listen to their story, and I'm going to stop it along the way and comment on everything that happens. Here we go.
OP Rock was my first assignment. It was just a kick in the face, pretty much like, hey, you're going to do this training for a few months and boom, you're going straight to Afghanistan. I don't even know if I want to do this from now on.
It looked like a giant rock, it was pretty much just a knoll. Had a very strange vibe.
The British soldiers look pretty rough. They look a little razzled, a little bit fried.
You can tell they've been there for a long time and they're just ready to go and go home.
You didn't have any beds, you didn't have any cots, you slept in the dirt. There was this dog. Take care of her, feed her, because you won't ever find a more diligent sentry. I took it upon myself to take care of her.
So there was a dog there, and they decided to take care of the dog and use the dog as sort of a guard dog as well. So let's keep going.
Finally, it was time for the British soldiers to go.
The British soldiers told us something crazy.
If you dig anything up,
Make sure you put it back.
where you found it, all right?
So it's like, we don't know these guys. They're probably just like jerking our chain, you know what I mean?
So they were clearly getting messed with too. So these British soldiers were there. They're getting messed with. They're getting convinced that it's haunted. And it probably followed some of them home too. These weapons are used on people, soldiers, civilians.
It made no sense to us at the time. Later that night, I was on the machine gun post. It was very isolated. When you're in a small unit, there's always that fear of being vastly outnumbered and dragged away into the night. It's always a possibility. Anytime Sergeant Green would come on the post, he would do a very distinctive tap-tap on your shoulder just to get your attention. All of a sudden, I heard something over the radio.
He hears something over the radio. And Hollywood has convinced people that ghosts, ghoulies, and demons invade electronics. This is a psyop. Ghosts do not invade electronics and radios and all that shit. It's misinformation that is purposely put out there.
It was a crackling, gurgling noise that kept fading in and out. I immediately called the main base. They called back.
That's a negative, OP Rock.
We have not sent or received any traffic at this time. It was just very unusual. I turn up the volume on it to see if I can kind of make out what's being transmitted. It doesn't sound English.
It sounds exactly like all the stuff that I've pulled out of all the audio over the years, whether that be deep audio or surface audio. It is the same thing.
My immediate thought, it was bad batteries. I grab a fresh battery. I hope that's the end of it.
So he's thinking rationally. They're all thinking rationally. But at some point, they start believing in the hocus pocus witch doctor shit.
This is our lifeline. We can't afford to lose this radio. If someone was to sneak up on us, we'd be done for. It was very unusual, but you can't really dwell on what happened.
Observation posts are usually pretty safe because you can see for miles and around.
Observation posts are pretty safe because you can see for miles around. That is important to remember. Miles around.
This was different though. You felt somewhat exposed.
Anytime your head was popping over the side, the chance that a sniper is going to get you. There were trenches in place, but they weren't very deep. The British had been here for a while. We couldn't figure out why they had not dug in deeper. We immediately knew that we needed to dig deeper and wider trenches.
We found little pieces of ceramic pots, little cups and stuff like that.
We went from being Marines to archaeologists or anthropologists or something.
So these little artifacts help to build the spooky, haunted scenario up in their minds. There's all this stuff. We find this, we find that. And then eventually it equates to haunted when it's just one big psyop. Believe me, dudes, this is the exact same thing that happens to civilians. It is the exact same thing that happens to people in artificial haunting scenarios. It is the exact same thing.
There was something that was down there, just didn't know exactly what it was.
It was my 20th birthday. I was the most junior Marine on OP Rock. Being up there alone with nothing to do just mentally drains you. It's an eerie silence. I grew up on a farm, so I was used to the country, but it was deathly quiet. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I just get this unnerving feeling that I'm being watched.
Which EMF can cause, ELF can cause, different frequencies can cause that feeling.
And it just sent chills through my entire body.
And I hear this blood-curdling scream. I thought someone got grabbed. This is our biggest fear.
So that is the first thing they experience is they hear a blood-curdling scream, right? Typical. Here we go.
Sneaking into camp, grabbing us at night and carrying them off.
He's like, man, what was that? I was just like, I don't even know, man. It was just like really creepy.
I assumed that it was a person that had caught in the wire, but I look around and there's nothing to be seen. I saw something move across right outside our perimeter wire.
We immediately went, guns on ready, straight to the little front entrance where a razor wire was, shined a flashlight out there, looked.
I thought someone is going to try to either take a pop shot at us or throw a grenade into the OP.
So I grabbed the thermals. Thermal optics would very clearly show anybody.
Thermal optics would show anything with heat. Anything. But there's nothing
that
there.
was hiding behind brush or hiding in the dirt. You can very clearly see its shape. From the body, he'd tell if it's a person or an animal.
With all the assets and gear at our disposal, there was no way that someone could have hidden from us and not be seen.
You're trying to put together what you just heard. What caused that? And you just don't have an answer.
So in all rationality, nothing can get close to them without them knowing. But yet it happens, and it gets blamed on the paranormal. And it's sad because it hurts these people mentally, and they take it with them mentally. And like I said, for a lot of these people, it carries on afterward. The testing doesn't stop there.
Shrugged her shoulders and went back to post and acted like nothing happened.
I assumed that it was just my mind playing tricks on me because I was so tired.
Everybody assumes that. Everybody always assumes that. Your mind cannot make up screams. It's bullshit. If you get tired a little bit, you don't start fucking hallucinating. Come on, man. I'm trying to help people here. It doesn't happen. Your vision might get weird, but you don't literally hallucinate stuff. It is a wives' tale. It's a myth.
Weird.
So early next morning, I took Lance Corporal Parker down with me. You always have a battle buddy watching your back. Being outside the wire, you feel very exposed for any kind of sniper attack. So we didn't want to spend a whole lot of time out there. I immediately started looking for some kind of rationalization for what had been there. Individual or even an animal for that matter would have left footprints. I could not find any kind of prints, man or beast, indicating that they had been there previous night.
So after that scream, there was nothing there. Rationally, what does that tell you? Well, it was either a ghost or it's the military testing the exact technology that they've admitted to deploying.
We've got the military had just deployed some of these into Iraq.
So you start to wonder, well, what was it?
It was quiet out. It was still, and I was just reflecting about life stuff. It would get so hot at night. It was very uncomfortable. All of a sudden, I feel like this cold chill move across me.
Which can be done with ELF or EMF. Very easy. It's a common symptom.
There's no breeze. There's no reason why I would feel cold all of a sudden. And then I feel this breath on the side of my face.
Which is done by modulating the air in front of you. It can be created. These are all artificial symptoms that many civilians have experienced in these artificial haunted house scenarios or actual electronic targeting scenarios.
And I hear something whisper in my ear. I spun around.
So he heard something whisper in his ear. Wait a minute, where have we heard that before?
Or you can whisper in the ear of a supposed terrorist some biblical verse.
Oh yeah, from Woody Norris. The military is buying these weapons. They're buying them all up and they're using them. And people are getting fooled by them because they don't know that they exist.
Nothing was there. I thought, I'm just tired. I'm just stressed out.
You do not hallucinate voices. You do not hallucinate visuals.
So I gaffed it off. I hear a crunching noise. It sounded like footsteps above me. There's definitely somebody walking above me. And I thought, okay, it's probably Smith. So I ran around real quick.
Wait a minute. What did Woody Norris say?
You can put fake troop movements a quarter of a mile away on a hillside.
That's right. Woody Norris said that. And guess what? Even the dude that originally owned Skinwalker Ranch said that the sounds always sounded as though they were coming from above him for some reason. And he never believed that it was ghosts or goblins or aliens. He always believed that it was the military or a government agency testing technology on his land.
To catch him on top of the post, nobody was there. And that's when I started getting spooked. So I turn on my thermal scope and I'm looking around and I'm scanning around on top of the base and nothing was there. And then I see this figure in my sight. It looks like his fists are balls. I was ready to shoot. I needed.
So at this point he is looking through his infrared visuals, not his thermals. So it doesn't show up on the thermals, it shows up on the infrared. Understand that. It's very, very easy to use an infrared hologram projection. Very easy.
To make sure it wasn't one of my boys. But when I look back through it, gone, just gone. So I was like, are you kidding me, man? I gotta deal with the Taliban, all the insects, the IEDs, the heat, and now I gotta deal with, like, spirits.
No, you're not dealing with spirits, dude. And I'm trying to help you here. You're dealing with your own people or somebody from Tel Aviv testing weapons on you. Full on. This is what it is. And hopefully, if you guys see this, or if somebody who has dealt with this sees this, they can move on with their life. It wasn't real. Believe me, dude, I can break it all down for you, piece by piece by piece.
That's when I felt that chill again. I mean, you have this gun and all this gear and you're training, but that's not gonna help you now.
When I got up to relieve Damien on post, he started telling me about strange things going on that night. I took it with a grain of salt because it's late, you're tired. One of your senses plays tricks on you.
Your senses do not play tricks on you like that. You may feel a certain way, but you do not hallucinate.
It's a lonely feeling knowing that you're the only one that sees these things or hears these things. I'd rather, take my chances against something I could actually, like, fight against. After that, I requested a transfer.
We didn't know what quite to make of it. If he wasn't strong enough to be there, then I didn't quite want him watching my back, because then that's something I can't trust.
So at that point, he was almost becoming the individual that was being hit with these weapons, other than the scream that was heard. He was the guy experiencing all this until he requested a transfer. So pay attention to that. It was just one guy, and then it progresses.
And at the same time, you're down a man now. That sucks for everybody else. A few days after Zolik had left OP Rock, I was on the machine gun post. It was about 1:30 in the morning. I hear Ugly Betty barking. Instinctively...
Oh, why would Ugly Betty be barking? Because the ghosts riled up the dog? Or because ultrasound was being used in the area, or infrasound was being used in the area? So what can ultrasound or infrasound do to a dog? Let's check that out.
The owner said this dog doesn't normally bark.
And that's exactly what happened here. And as I've said, this can be done from long distances.
I throw up my night vision goggles to see what she's barking at. I see something in the distance. First thing that goes through my mind is a scout for the Taliban. It was unnerving. I felt like this figure was staring right at me and knew I was staring right back at it. At that distance, your eyes can kind of play tricks on you. I switch over to my thermal optics. There's no animal activity, no creatures, no people.
Thermal, there's nothing. Infrared, there's something. Think about this. Use your head.
People out there. So, thinking that I had made a mistake somehow, I switched back over to my night vision goggles. The figure had moved 100 meters closer in just a few seconds.
A figure had moved 100 meters closer. Why? Because it's a hologram.
It is teleporting to me. I thought I must have gone crazy. Still nothing. Field's cold. There's no body heat signatures. This whole time, Ugly Betty is still barking in that direction.
And Ugly Betty is still barking because of the frequencies being used.
The owner said this dog doesn't normally bark.
They can rile up the dog. It's that easy.
I'll look back to where the figure is, and just then I felt Sergeant Green's signature double tap on the shoulder. I knew I felt that double tap. It was so precise.
So what they did is they pulled out the entire bag of tricks with these guys to see what they could get away with. They used the visuals, they used the audio, they used the sense of touch, they used the creepy feeling that is all caused with EMF. All of this stuff can be recreated. All of it. It is a weapon of war.
And there's nobody there. I know I'm not crazy. Ugly Betty was barking at it.
Okay, so that's what it does. The dog barking, along with your fear, actually validates what is happening when the dog has been artificially stimulated.
The owner said this dog doesn't normally bark.
It's not just me. I realized Zolik, was on to something. And he got out of there, and we're still here. What is my next step? You don't go running to your command saying, I've got ghosts playing tricks on me on post, because that's going to get you a one-way ticket to the loony bin. Part of me kind of wished that someone else might have the experience, too.
It was the dead of the night. Everyone else is asleep. There's one other Marine that's awake, Lance Corporal Smith, who was 15 to 20 meters away on a different post. I could hear big footsteps behind me, and there's nothing there.
footsteps. It's always footsteps or something really easy.
You can put fake troop movements.
And when you've experienced these fake hauntings, you realize how easy it is to do to somebody.
It was probably just loose gravel falling. Ugly Betty was just standing there with her hair up. Teeth
which was done with frequency.
bared, growling. So I scanned with my thermal. The only heat signatures up there were the dog and the other Marine sleeping. Try to shake it off. Do your job. And all of a sudden I just hear this crunch again. My body is telling me that something just breathed on me. My skin is icy. I couldn't see anything. And it was like my eyes were just lying to me because every other sense in my body was saying, no, there's something there.
And this is what happens to anybody who experiences these weapons. There comes a point where your senses are telling you there is something there, but you don't see anything. Interesting, right?
It was then that I really accepted the fact that, you know what? Damien was right. We were not alone up there.
I never, ever believed in ghosts. There's no way, man. There's no way that happened. Like, I don't believe any of that stuff. And then out of nowhere, it was just like this weird cold chill. And then that's when I heard the whispering. At first, it was just like faint, like you can barely hear what was going on.
Which is exactly what a lot of these people experience. The voices are very faint, and they get louder and louder the more you listen for them.
There was no one there. The voice came back again, but it was more distinct. And then it just got louder. Like the person was actually touching me in the ear. And it was just so loud in my head. And it just terrified.
So loud in his head.
Or you can whisper in the ear of a supposed terrorist some biblical verse.
Interesting choice of words.
We couldn't deny that these things had happened to us because it happened to all of us.
Everybody was just like, yeah, man, I know exactly what you're talking about.
This is not something that we can just write off as being heat stroke or being exhaustion. It was too many things happening to all of us, too many times.
It just became
Because you were being experimented on with weapons of war.
common knowledge. I mean, at this point, you have to look to the supernatural.
No, you don't. Not when all of these things exist. Think about all the experiments that have been done on all different branches over the years, and especially one that doesn't have any overt physical effects. They are absolutely going to test this stuff on you. Somebody did this to you. Probably a psychological operations unit. You do not have to just go to the supernatural. That is what ordinary shitheads do. Be bigger than that, dude. You got tested on. And a lot of people that experience this, their egos don't want to admit it. I'm going to tell you that right now. But I'm telling you, when you can finally admit it, it's not what you thought it was.
You can't shoot it, you can't stab it, you can't blow it up. You just have to accept the fact that these things are happening and we need to continue to do our job.
The one person that seemed most unaffected by it was Lance Corporal Smith.
He used to give us a bit of a hard time about it. The sun fried your brain.
But there was something just completely wrong about this place. And it wasn't a matter, if something would happen again. It was a matter of when. This was our last night. We were so close to our goal of getting out of there.
So it starts off with one guy, and then it happens to everybody but one guy, right? And then it saves itself somehow, these ghosts, for the finale, their last night. And their last night there, like these ghosts have their itinerary, right? And then it just nails them. So here we go.
We were all on edge. Something going on with the radio, and both of them have gone dead within a 10-minute period. It just made no sense.
So both of their radios go dead. So it's blocking communication. You send in the jamming frequency, screw everything up. These frequencies start bleeding into everything, and that's a fact. And then this shit goes down.
So I grabbed the last good battery we have. That's all we have left. Radio's dead. System's dead. Our means of communication have now been completely severed.
Our means of communication have now been completely severed. Weapon of war, dude.
It's gonna happen again. I'm sitting here waiting for that whisper. Bang, 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 bang. Holy hell, we're all about to die right now.
Someone finally got in.
So the ghosts are going pew, 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 pew. And I'm not making a joke to make a joke. What I'm saying is that ghosts are not going to recreate the sound of guns or RPGs or anything else. This is a weapon of war, and it's been used in a lot of different scenarios. I won't get into that.
Someone is trying to kill us.
We've been shot at before, but this is close.
Time to go to work. It's gonna be them or me. And it's sure as hell not gonna be me.
My heart was pounding really hardcore. Machine gun fire right next to my ear.
Machine gun fire right next to his ear.
What you hear is made right next to your ears.
Dudes, think about this. Please, for the love of God, think about this. Do not allow yourself to become a casualty of bullshit. Paranormal does not operate like this, and the people that believe that are being fooled.
It was very clear that no rounds had been recently expelled from the machine gun.
And out of nowhere, I heard. It was definitely an RPG.
An RPG comes flying over.
What you hear is made right next to your ears.
These are weapons of war. Oh, it's so frustrating. It is so frustrating to see this happen over and over, and the brand confusion just keep people in a state of confusion.
You can just hear the thump, 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 thump of your heartbeat. I thought this was it. I thought I was done for.
Everyone started to try to figure out where we were taking fire from. Check every trench. The only thing going through your head is the next step that I have to take. Move forward, find the enemy, but there was no enemy to find.
Whatever it was actually like holding a gun next to my ear and just opening fire.
It was holding a gun next to his ear and opening fire. Now, what did Woody Norris say about those sounds that were made?
What you hear is made right next to your ears.
And it can be done at ridiculously long distances. This stuff has been used on civilians for years. They're using this on cops now, where the cop swears he hears a gun go off. So they are using this on high-stress moments with police on our soil.
I remember was hearing the noise.
All of a sudden, it was completely silent, like there's nothing even there. And I couldn't even explain what was going on.
Everyone heard it. Everyone knew it was a machine gun.
At that point, we realized there's no one there. We felt helpless. It's too much for your mind to process.
It is at the moment, but now that you've had time to reflect on it, kick the paranormal thoughts out of your head and realize that it was fake and it was created. It was an artificial scenario, and they were testing those artificial scenarios on you. And then the report and the story you give lets them know whether it was successful or not.
That's Corporal Smith.
Because let me say this, because if only one person heard the weapons and not everybody else, it would have been a failure. Everybody had to hear it.
Gets mad, he throws off his helmet. We were all so ready to get off that godforsaken piece of rock. Finally, we heard from the main base that we're no longer going to be there.
We were packed up and ready to go within 5 minutes of getting the order.
The moment we actually did step foot off the rock, it was the greatest feeling of all time. Like I felt really happy, like it was like my birthday.
I thought we were safe from whatever was up there. We'll be able to move on with our lives. We didn't realize what was to come. You thought you were done with OP Rock when you...
Okay, so what ends up happening is it ends up actually messing with them later. So it did follow them. So listen to me, dudes. It is meant to mess with you. And they're making a movie about this because this is how they love to frame it. And it's right in your face, man. It is right in your face. It is all in your face. The technology is right in your face. But if you start talking about the technology, you've got a referral, just like if you were talking about ghosts. But they love to frame it as paranormal crap, and that is exactly what they're doing. If they haven't made that movie yet, it's going to be made. Guaranteed. I've played this on my channel before. This is the spooky demon that haunted my house when I'd flush my toilet. Check it out. Then it says something here. So what happened in this? I came in from the garage. I was recording. I went to use the bathroom. I walked out, and this was here. It is using the sounds and the things around me, sort of like a trigger. And then you can hear my boot steps here, and the sound is actually riding on my boot steps. And the voice almost sounds like it says there, just kill yourself. But if you believed it, you would think there was a spooky demon in your house. It's following my boot steps and it's following the toilet flushing. It's artificial. This sounds like some Fat Albert demon. Here is one that I have pitched to show exactly how not scary it is. So it's riding on the toilet flush here. Then the toilet actually goes ka-chunk, 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 taking the water down, and it says something here. And then it follows my boot steps, and here you'll hear the voice clear as day. Just kill yourself. Listen to me, dudes. It is not real. This is happening to victim after victim, regardless of where they are in life, or what they're doing, what their profession is. And I implore you to research it, and I beg you to see it for what it really is. It's technology and it's magic tricks. If you are a veteran of Iraq, Afghanistan, even Iraq 1, and you are experiencing this, I will show you that it is fake for free. The same shit, same sound weapons can influence your dreams. It can do a myriad of other things. Check out my other videos, and I will prove this to you so you can get your mind right. That's it for now. Look out for Charlie.
Come on, do Nazi stuff.
Look out for Charlie.